Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 888. Ooh, 888. 888. There must be some mystical significance to that. You know what? We've got a few items coming up on this week's show, but I think I might give Psychic Penny a call and see if I can get her in later on to comment on the number 888. It's Richard Saunders here from Sydney, Australia. A hot, summery, well, almost summery Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's show, we're going to kick off with Woo Watch with our new reporter, Kate Thomas. And what's the woo worth watching this week? Wellness patches. Wellness patches. These are sticky patches you stick on with all sorts of claims. What does Kate think of wellness patches? Find out at the top of the show. Following that, it's the Australian Skeptics newsletter, read by Adrienne Hill and written by new news editor D. Following that, it's my review of this year's Mind Body Wallet. I should say Mind Body Spirit Festival at Darling Harbour. And we're going to take a sort of an overview of the whole phenomena of Mind Body Spirit, these new age festivals. And then, well, luck willing, I guess you'd say, if I can contact her in time, I'll make space for Psychic Penny and her numerology about the number 888. Woo. And then to round off the show, in the TROVE Archives, we're going to be looking at CSICOP. Yes, it's a bumper show this week for 888, so I better run downstairs quickly, have a handful of peanuts, and while I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Wacky woo that's worth watching. It's Woo Watch with Kate Thomas.
Hi folks, Kate here. I'm a pharmacist and a skeptic, and I spend a lot of time debunking dodgy health claims. And this week's woo of the week sticks, literally. We're talking about wellness patches. I came upon a product range, and amongst other things, they have an offering of the Metabolize patch. The website says it supports energy production, fat metabolism, and overall wellness. And it contains bladderwrack, 5-HTP, green coffee bean extract, L-carnitine, zinc citrate, zinc pyruvate, yerba mate, GABA, lotus leaf, and raspberry ketone. That's not a patch, that's a salad bar. Your skin's main job is to keep things out. It's an incredible barrier. The outer layer, the stratum corneum, is made up of dead, densely packed cells surrounded by lipids. To get through it, a molecule has to be tiny, fat-soluble, and delivered in a specially engineered base that helps it cross. That's why patches for nicotine, estrogen, or fentanyl work. Those molecules fit the profile. Now, this Metabolize patch, most of those ingredients are water-soluble, bulky, or ionic. They simply can't get through the skin. Zinc is a metal ion. GABA is polar and too big. 5-HTP and L-carnitine dissolve in water, not fat. And bladderwrack, yerba mate, lotus leaf, and raspberry ketones are plant extracts, complex mixes of huge molecules. Even if they could get in, there's little evidence any of them meaningfully boost metabolism. Green coffee extract and raspberry ketones have been studied to death. The result is somewhere between weak and imaginary. These websites love sciencey phrases like transdermal delivery system, continuous 8 hours support, and nanotechnology infusion. It sounds impressive until you realize there's no peer-reviewed data, no pharmacokinetic studies, and certainly no regulatory approval for these products. If a patch really could deliver vitamins or herbal actives through the skin, it wouldn't be sitting next to detox teas on TikTok. It'd be a prescription medicine worth billions. So it's a sticker full of ingredients that can't get in and wouldn't do much even if they could. And because wellness trends always escalate, the next step in the patch parade is the GLP-1 patch. These don't contain semaglutide, the active drug in Ozempic and Wegovy. Instead, they're made with berberine extract, pomegranate extract, and cinnamon extract, ingredients often marketed as blood sugar regulators. Berberine, by the way, is sometimes called nature's Ozempic on TikTok, which is like calling a push bike nature's Ferrari. Even if berberine had modest effects when swallowed, and some small studies suggest it might lower blood glucose a bit, it's a large water-soluble alkaloid that cannot cross the skin barrier. Neither can pomegranate polyphenols or cinnamon compounds. So when a patch claims to activate your GLP-1 pathway, what it's really activating is your gullibility. A legitimate transdermal medicine, say an HRT patch or a pain patch, is a complex piece of pharmaceutical engineering. Each one is carefully designed with a drug-in matrix system, penetration enhancers, adhesive chemistry, and a controlled release membrane. The formulation has to balance volatility, skin hydration, pH, and temperature. And even then, they're not perfect. Hormone patches can have variable absorption between patients, and pain patches often fail in cachectic patients, those who've lost their body fat, because there's not enough subcutaneous tissue to create the concentration gradient needed for absorption. So if it's that complicated to get a potent prescription-strength drug across the skin under clinical supervision, how likely is it that a sticker containing seaweed, coffee, and zinc powder is going to do anything? This patchification of wellness is the perfect metaphor for modern woo. It looks medical, it feels high-tech, and it's completely ignoring basic biology. The skin is a wall, not a shortcut, and marketing can't override molecular size. At the end of the day, they're just expensive band-aids with buzzwords. Skin is not a portal for coffee beans and kelp extract. And if a patch truly changed metabolism, it wouldn't cost $39.95 on Afterpay. It would be in a pharmacy with a prescription label. I'm Kate, your skeptical pharmacist, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Prescribe or Pass.
This is Ben Radford
and Celestia Ward,
coming to you on the Skeptic Zone podcast, one of our favorite skeptical shows.
Back on our podcast, Squaring the Strange, we cover topics like cryptids, ghost stories, and other mysterious phenomena.
If you like tales of the strange and unraveling them to find out the origins, the psychology, and the allure of the weird, well, you might like Squaring the Strange.
New episodes drop twice a month, and our backlog includes folklore, true crime mysteries, psychics, superstitions, conspiracies, panics, urban legends, and more.
Find us on all the popular podcast feeds, and if you like us, subscribe.
No, subscribe first and download like 200 episodes. Then decide later if you like us.
Yeah, either way.
Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada, and I'm here to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics newsletter. This is newsletter number 232. Don't forget, you can sign up to this newsletter at skeptics.com.au and get the full report, complete with all the links, every other week, right into your inbox. But let's see what our news editor, Dee, has for us this time. Hi all, says Dee. Skepticon 2025 has finished with some great speakers and much conviviality. Congratulations go to the Vic Skeptics Organizing Committee for putting on a successful event. It always requires a lot of time and sweat to put on meetings such as these, so their efforts are much appreciated. See the Skepticon website soon for details on any special post-convention viewings. For now, stay tuned for details of next year's event in July in Sydney, a special SGU event that promises to be something very exciting. In the meantime, read on, Dee. Okay, Dee, I'll do just that. Barbara O'Neill wins the 2025 Bent Spoon Award. This year's Bent Spoon Award goes to the banned naturopath Barbara O'Neill for sharing her claims that grated potatoes can prevent tetanus. Sliced garlic placed on the sole of a baby's foot is more powerful than antibiotics. And chopped onions can treat pneumonia. Suspicions arise that she is in the pocket of the agricultural industry or Big Farmer. Robin Williams of the ABC Science Show won the Thornett Award for the promotion of reason. Trump's Truth Social promotes CBD products for the elderly. This is another installment in the slew of misinformation the White House has been publishing this week, encouraging elders and citizens to take cannabis products like CBD, using the endocannabinoid system as justification to float coverage for CBD products. Interesting. What does the science say about a treatment for autism? In classic fashion, with fresh fingers pointed at paracetamol or acetaminophen as a cause for autism in children, a treatment has been found. How convenient. Disregarding the idea that autism is even a condition that could be or needs curing, there is no science to suggest this miracle pill could solve your difficult child. Sovereign citizens latch onto the idea of a fraudulent Australia Act. Sovereign citizens love to flaunt what they consider to be technicalities in order to further their own warped views. Recently, the idea that the Australia Act of 1901 severed us from UK law was fraudulent because colonial parliaments were dissolved at our federation. Parliament must have egg on their face. Melbourne doctor promoting unapproved drugs is an AI fake. It is disconcerting that not only are the phony medical claims shared around online bogus, the doctors sharing these lies don't exist either. An unapproved company and medication are linked to the claims. But what would robots know about weight loss anyway? There's hope yet for herd immunity in HPV. The HPV vaccine has been shown to not only reduce infectious rates for vaccinated women, but also unvaccinated women, demonstrating the herd immunity effect. Another positive side effect of this is that HPV is an indirect cause of cancer, thus a much-needed ray of positivity in the global health sphere. A new Bermuda Triangle thought to be on U.S. soil? Ignoring the fact it'd be silly to refer to it as another Bermuda Triangle, Lake Michigan is apparently home to phenomena, whatever that means. I'm sure it will fit in alongside the other geometric shapes dotting the continent. The Nevada Triangle, Bennington Triangle, Bridgewater Triangle, Alaskan Triangle, Sargasso Sea, and the Marysburg Vortex. Ships apparently just can't sink after all. Items of interest. Travel tips. If you have a burning need to get some memorabilia signed by Bruce Forsyth, he is allegedly still kicking off at the London Palladium. Talk about dedication, since he died in 2017. Litigious lamentations. We have all been wrapped up in the hunt for Bigfoot. We never once asked ourselves the real questions. Is it legal to kill a Sasquatch? Raising all kinds of moral quandaries that we at Australian Skeptics are not equipped to handle. Silliest story of the week. Oh dear. Etsy witch regrets putting a hex on Charlie Kirk. An individual on Etsy, a website which supports fledgling online businesses, has expressed, quote, regret for any distress caused, end quote, for placing a hex on political commentator Charlie Kirk. Who knew how powerful these online witches could be? Dope story of the week. The conversation features uncritical psychic pub article. A favorite of our sources for articles, The Conversation, has published an article heralding and making uncritical judgments on the phenomenon of mediums performing at pubs in Bristol. What a shame they feature individuals taking advantage of people's misery. That's all for this week's newsletter. Now it's time for me to run upstairs and have a nap on my cherished Chesterfield. What's a Chesterfield, you ask? It is a Canadian iconic word, mostly used by us older Canadians now to mean a sofa or a couch. It has English roots since it is believed the name comes from the 4th Earl of Chesterfield, who ordered a custom buttoned leather sofa in the early 1700s. Now, this sofa had rolled arms that were just as high as the back. Today, at least in Canada, as long as it seats multiple people, any sofa can be called a Chesterfield. So in conclusion, whether you're collapsing, conversing, or contemplating life's chaos, you can count on your cozy Canadian Chesterfield. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from CSICOP Studios in Calgary, Canada.
Here's what they don't tell you about detox products. Your liver and kidneys are already detoxing you for free, 24/7. These companies never tell you what toxins they're actually removing, because actually they're not removing anything. That $80 juice cleanse, you're literally just hungry and dehydrated. Those foot pads that turn black, they react with your sweat. Just put water on them and exactly the same thing will happen. The only thing getting flushed is your money. To avoid being led up the garden path, listen to me, Annie McCubbin, on the Wise Smart Women podcast. See ya.
The Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit, or as we've called it here for many years, the Festival of Mind, Body, Wallet. I think that term was coined by the late Barry Williams, the former president and editor of the Skeptic magazine here in Australia. Now, this has been going on since about 19 89. And for roughly every 6 months, sometimes every year, I think, though more frequently every 6 months, it comes to Sydney. I think it travels around to other capitals too. In fact, it does. And a few days ago, I went to the Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit with Tim Ferguson, our friend Tim Ferguson, and Sue Yarachi, who you hear on the Skeptic Zone, who is an emergency physician. But more about that later. And indeed, later on today, Sunday the 12th, I will be going back with our new reporter, Kate Thomas, and Annie McCubbin from the Why Smart Women podcast. And for both of them, this will be their first time at the Mind, Body, Spirit. The Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, of course, is a cavalcade of mostly nonsense, mostly things that cannot work, do not work, naturopaths, homeopaths, supplements, new inventions, gadgets with flashing lights, bad ideas, psychics, clairvoyance, and so on. I've heard many amazing claims at Mind, Body, Spirit, from cancer cures to everything cures. And I've said for many years, it's a must. It's a must for any self-respecting skeptic to go at least once and to ask questions. It's the best thing you can do. I long ago learned the lesson that if you try to argue with them or point out the error of their ways, it doesn't get you very far for a couple of reasons. One, if they're scammers, if they're con artists, if they're on a good business deal, they're not going to sit there and take what you say. They're going to get rid of you. Go away, kid, you bother me, that sort of thing. Second, if they're true believers, then what you're saying to them won't make much sense, and you'll come across as some weird crank. In any case, you won't get very far. So it's best to ask questions, gather information, gather the flyers, which I've been doing for many years, and then see later on whether there's more appropriate action to be taken against some of these companies or purveyors of nonsense. It is very interesting to have conversations with the people fronting the stalls for this product or that product who, when questioned, you can tell that they are regurgitating what they've been told, but they probably sincerely believe it. In the case of this year's Mind, Body, Spirit, Mind, Body Wallet, there's a certain tiny patch you put on your skin, and the claims for it are outrageously stupid, with nanoparticles and light rays and so on. But in conversations with the people at the stall, it was clear that they completely and utterly believed every bit of it to be true, and indeed they know that because it works for them. And once someone thinks something works for them, it's very hard to argue them out of that. According to a little bit of research, the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, held annually and every 6 months, biannually is that, in major Australian cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. It's one of the country's largest gatherings dedicated to what is often called the wellness or spiritual growth or holistic living. A little bit vague, really. Tens of thousands of visitors go every year. It lasts for 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, here in Sydney at least, at the Exhibition Centre in Darling Harbour, offering stalls, workshops, demonstrations on everything from crystal healing to tarot card, yoga, astrology, and energy medicine. And indeed, there is usually a naturopath doing iridology. It's also famous for its room of psychics. You pay your money, you put your name down, and you can have usually a tarot card reading from a psychic in the big room of psychics. It really is a cultural phenomenon, though, in our society. It does reflect a deep-seated human desire for meaning and community. Don't forget that. And personal transformation, growth. But there are always stalls selling interesting and good things. Clothing items, yummy food, lovely decorations, jewelry, that sort of thing. From a skeptical point of view, however, it's probably the highlight of the year when it comes to seeing firsthand widespread misunderstandings about science and what the nature of evidence is. And it is a classic for the ways in which commercial and emotional appeal can blur the line between belief and fact. And we don't forget for one moment that business is business. Mind Body Spirit Festival functions as a modern marketplace of belief. It blends elements of religion, consumerism, self-help gurus into a single, highly accessible experience. For many attendees, it serves as an alternative to organized religion, offering spirituality with a bit of flair. Visitors can explore everything from meditation to mediumship without ever declaring belief in any of it. The festival represents an interest in well-being, mental health, and self-knowledge, mixed in with a little bit of mysticism and curiosity about what is out there. It also embodies a rejection of institutions perceived as rigid, elitist, or disconnected from everyday life. And in many cases, it will, not overtly, but it will discourage you from modern Western medicine, often seen as part of the conspiracy, or there is some sort of plot involved in not letting you get access to free natural medicine and this sort of thing. From a rational point of view, of course, we see that at the festival's core are claims that are not supported by evidence. Practices such as crystal healing, homeopathy, Reiki, astrology, and devices such as the Aura camera, the ever-popular Aura camera, which is tricked up, a fake device designed to imprint lights into pictures, and they tell you that's your aura, which you can then have analysed, etc., all of which contradicts well-established scientific understanding. Apart from the Aura cameras, of course, because they're designed scientifically to be tricked up. Science has consistently shown that crystals do not emit healing vibrations and energy fields. And indeed, a couple of days ago, someone was telling me about the vibrations by a certain object, and I said, the vibrations of what? And he said with a straight face, the vibrations of the frequencies. I think these must be two of the three most often used words at Mind Body Spirit: energy, vibration, and frequencies. But as we said before, business is business, and commercialism plays a huge role in Mind Body Spirit. It is, above all, a business to sell products and services. Stalls sell everything from essential oils to angel cards, and workshops can be costly. The marketing language of natural healing and spiritual awakening appeals to consumers' emotions rather than their intellect, promising transformation without the burden of proof. Although they will say they do have proof for all of these, and that's normally in the forms of anecdotes. In this way, the festival exemplifies what Karl Popper called the closed system of belief, one that resists falsification because every possible outcome, success or failure, can be reinterpreted as validation. And that is also what is classically done with conspiracy theories. Whatever happens, it's part of the conspiracy theory. Is it unfair to dismiss the festival as mere pseudoscience for exploitation? For many practitioners, the event fosters genuine well-being through social interaction, mindfulness practices, and a sense of belonging. It's a community, no doubt. From a rational viewpoint, these benefits can be understood as a human response to supportive environments, rather than proof of supernatural power. But so saying, we must remember that it is a great cloak, it's a great disguise for con artists and scam artists who knowingly peddle nonsense because they can simply use the same arguments as the true believers. The Mind Body Spirit Festival occupies a curious place in the Australian culture, part spiritual fair, part marketplace, and part social phenomenon. It does reveal a great deal about the human search for meaning in a complex and secular society. While many of its claims don't withstand scientific scrutiny, and that's an understatement, the festival's popularity underscores real needs for connection, hope, and personal growth. It can be quite entertaining. Now let me tell you of an incident that happened a few days ago at the Mind Body Spirit Festival. I was looking over a stall of something or other. Tim and Sue had gone on ahead of me to look around, And suddenly, a few feet away from me, a young lady had a medical incident where she fell over, fainted, presumably, tripped or fainted, and was lying on the floor surrounded by concerned people. I had a look at the situation, went over, could see she was very distressed, this young woman. And I think an official from Mind, Body, Spirit was there too. And I said immediately, "Do you need an emergency physician?" "Yes," was the reply. I raced around the crowd, up another line of stalls to find Sue, interrupted what she was doing and said there was an emergency, a medical emergency. She raced around with me, and we got to the young lady in question on the floor, and Sue began to assess the situation. And luckily, fortunately, it appears it wasn't too serious. Sue was only there for about 2 or 3 minutes to assess the situation. Apparently the young lady might have had a dizzy spell or something like that. But then it struck me. In a giant hall full of homeopaths, naturopaths, crystal healers, Reiki healers, intuitives, and all the rest of it, what did they need the most when the chips were down, when a real emergency came? They needed a real doctor. Now, on next week's episode, I will bring you a report of my next visit to Mind, Body, Spirit later today with Kate Thomas and Annie McCubbin. And I'm sure that will be very interesting. The Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit, or Mind, Body, Wallet. I encourage you all to go to one, no matter where you are around the world. There's probably something that comes to your town or city. Check it out from a skeptical point of view. And remember, ask lots of questions.
Hi, I'm Darren McKee, one of the hosts of The Reality Check. Each week, my co-host and I explore a range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. You can find us on iTunes, your favorite podcasting platform, and on Facebook by searching for The Reality Check, or by following us on Twitter at TRC_podcast. Until then, keep an open mind, but not so open your brain falls out.
Welcome, seekers of the secrets of the ethereal, to my Psychic Penny's eccentric cosmic compass calculations company that helps you navigate your numerological nirvana through nonagonal emojis in connection with the Galactic Federation. Recently, it has been brought to my attention that the Skeptic Zone podcast has reached 888 elliptical episodes. The angel number 888 means that we can all persevere when things are challenging, that we will be prosperous and successful, and we will be spiritually enlightened. You may be asking yourself, what does this all mean? It means all we have to do is manifest what we want just by thinking about it while lying on our Chesterfield of chakras. Think about the implications of the number 8. 8 on its side is the significant spiritual and spectral symbol for infinity, which means that any idea we can imagine can come true as long as the homeopathic subluxation of Venus is in retrograde. Oh, the space-bound celestials are whispering in my ear that in the glorifying galactic game of golf, scoring an 8 on a hole is considered bad luck. So it is always best referred to as a snowman instead. So is 8 good or bad, you ask? Well, it depends upon the chi of the quantum rotation of the axis of symmetry of the Earth. or however you may be perceiving things that day. And just think, episode 888 has 3 8s, which if you add the digits together, 8 plus 8 plus 8, you will get 24. Now, multiply this number with the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow, which the spirits tell me is 50 kilometers per hour, and you will get 1,200. Divide this number by the smallest unprimable number, which the aliens tell me is 200, and then multiply by the number of days in the week, which is the same in the entire multidimensional universe. And you will get the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, which the Galactic Federation of the Great Atoms says is 42, making 888 a very important number indeed. Ooh, the spirits are telling me more about the significance of 888, besides representing harmony and home. If you multiply the digits together, so 8 times 8 times 8, you get 512, which is the echo of the soul print of the recommended giga vibrations of your next phone. The spreadsheet shamans are murmuring about the stillness, serenity, and sanctuary of this strobogrammatic number. It is a cirque du soleil of numbers, a magical mathematical mirror, since it can be rotated 180 degrees and it holds its sacred form. Congratulations, Richard Saunders, on reaching the Pantheon palindromic milestone of 888 episodes, a number that radiates cosmic balance and infinite insight. The Galactic Federation is clearly tuned in to the Skeptic Zone, and it's loving every empirically enchanted minute. Until next time, keep your Christagon chakras charged and your cosmic calculators cleansed by the light of the full moon. This is Psychic Penny, signing off with love, light, and a laminated numerology chart that I bought from a woman named Deception in a parking lot.
This is Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. That's the YouTube channel where we discuss and analyze in great depth all those people who say that they can speak to the dead, all those readings, how they look like they're actually communicating with people. Why do people fall for this? There's a reason. It's much more complicated than you would think. Come to my channel, watch our videos. We would love to have you become part of our conversation. Just visit us on YouTube at Psychics Explained or Psychic Sex Plained on YouTube.
Now it's time to head back to the digital archives, no matter where they are around the world. Well, in the cloud, I guess, but normally at Trove. At trove.nla.gov.au, but also we look at Google newspapers and other resources. And this week, it's going to be part one of a two-part look at references to CSICOP. CSICOP, which is now known as the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, but will contain our search for the years it was known as CSICOP, especially in the early years. The Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, CSI, formerly known as the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, CSICOP, is a program within the US non-profit organization Center for Inquiry, CFI, which seeks to promote scientific inquiry, critical investigation, and the use of reason in examining controversial and extraordinary claims. Paul Kurtz proposed the establishment of CSICOP in 1976 as an independent non-profit organization before merging with CFI as one of its programs in 2015. To counter what he regarded as uncritical acceptance of and support for paranormal claims both by the media and society in general. Its philosophical position is one of scientific skepticism. CFI's fellows have included notable scientists, Nobel laureates, philosophers, psychologists, educators, and authors. It is headquartered in Amherst, New York, and I am very honored also to be a fellow of that organization. And if we look at the mission statement, the formal mission statement approved in 2006, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry promotes science and scientific inquiry, critical thinking, science education, and the use of reason in examining important issues. It encourages the critical investigations of controversial or extraordinary claims from a reasonable scientific point of view and disseminates factual information about results of such inquiries to the scientific community, the media, and the public. And in many ways, the outlook is very similar to that of Australian skeptics. But let's see what we can find going back some years. In fact, let's go back 40 years to 1985 on the 16th of December, as written in the Age newspaper from Melbourne, Australia. And this is a story by Ian Anderson. America's scientific skeptics have a battle on their hands over claims that the superpowers are experimenting with psychic power for weaponry and espionage. American skeptics are having a hard time convincing non-skeptics that UFOs, telepathy, clairvoyance, poltergeists, and other paranormal phenomena are a load of hogwash. As fast as they bowl over one claim, so another bobs up. Opinion polls consistently show that many Americans believe in the paranormal. About 60% of teenagers believe in extrasensory perception, angels, and astrology, for example. That is why a story of debunking from Australia lifted the skeptics' spirits recently. The occasion was a meeting at Stanford University of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, CSICOP. Bob Steiner, a chartered accountant and part-time magician from El Cerrito, explained how in Australia last May he pretended to be a psychic named Steve Turbo. A few insiders knew that Steiner's demonstration of psychic powers was nothing more than a magic show. Mark Plummer, president of Australian Skeptics, went to California to relate how successful the hoax had been. When it was revealed, the believers were stunned, Plummer said. Most of the population was fooled, but they took it well. Now every time a new psychic comes to Australia, the public will recall Steve Turbo and realise that what a psychic does has been replicated before their own eyes. He claimed that membership in paranormal groups was down in Australia following Steiner's visit, but perhaps the most significant aspect was that the non-believers had taken the initiative. "We aren't reacting to psychic claims," Plummer said. "We made our own news to get our message across." In the US, CSICOP spends a lot of time reacting. "We are ranged against a very big industry," CSICOP co-founder and chairman Professor Paul Kurtz said at Stanford. "There is a lot of money to be made in pushing the paranormal." CSICOP was formed in 1976 by scientific skeptics and rationalists who were alarmed at the rising tide of unchallenged paranormal claims. It lists amongst its supporters such luminaries as Stephen Jay Gould, Isaac Asimov, Sidney Hook, B.F. Skinner, Francis Crick, and Carl Sagan. Paranormal claims, according to CSICOP supporters, soon evaporate when subjected to rigorous scientific scrutiny. Sloppy experimental procedures are common, they say. Erroneous results are produced by misrepresentation or ignorance of the data. In addition, existing physical laws can often explain the phenomena. The believers retort that scientific skeptics are frightened because their view of the universe and the way it works is being challenged. People are overloaded with information. They do not know what is true and what is not, said Kurtz, a professor of philosophy at the University of New York. The United States is the world's most highly advanced scientific and technological nation. It's paradoxical that, in spite of this, large sectors of the population persist in mythological and primitive thought. He puts a lot of blame on the media. Unproven claims and tentative hypotheses are converted into truth by overzealous reporters, he says. Perhaps CSICOP's most intriguing battle is to do with what has been dubbed psychic warfare. The idea of the two superpowers using psychic power for weaponry and espionage. Most of it is so far-fetched that it is hard to believe anybody could take it seriously. The Soviets, for example, are supposed to be developing a, quote, hyperspace nuclear howitzer, end quote, to detect nuclear explosions towards the US by mental force. The Americans, it is said, are trying to circumvent such dastardly acts by erecting a so-called psychic shield that would stop the influence of hostile psychics. Another weapon is a, quote, photon barrier modulator, end quote, that would induce illness or even death by telepathy. But there is one type of psychic phenomena that continually gains credence, even if it has yet to be substantiated scientifically. It is called, quote, remote viewing, end quote, and it involves a person being able to see and describe objects when separated from them by time and space. Imagine what that would do for the spy trade. Some say it is just clairvoyance in new garb. In a widely read syndicated column last year, journalist Jack Anderson claimed that in a CIA-sponsored project in New Mexico, a psychic in Menlo Park, California, described the appearance of a sensitive Soviet nuclear testing area at Semipalatinsk in Kazakhstan. The description included a gantry and a crane that were subsequently revealed by spy satellites. In another case, a psychic reportedly gave the CIA the location in Africa of a downed Soviet bomber. Even Professor Kurtz says the Pentagon should spend money on remote viewing, just in case there is something there. Remote viewing keeps cropping up largely as a result of the exploits of one man, Russell Targ, a trained laser physicist from Palo Alto, California. He worked at SRI International, where the experiments mentioned by Anderson were carried out. But Targ objected to the increasing military interest in remote viewing and left. He is now running a private company which, among other things, has a contract with Atari to develop a video game based on psychic power, although Atari has stopped the funding, so nothing may come of it. He is also being courted by the Soviets. Targ has been to the USSR twice in recent months and will go again. He says he is working with the Theoretical Problems Department of the Soviet Academy of Sciences in Moscow to conduct remote viewing experiments from the USSR to the US and vice versa. Targ claims that last October a Soviet psychic and healer by the name of Gina Gravitashvili, and I hope that's pronounced correctly, described a location in San Francisco where Targ's business partner, Keith Harry, was standing. What is more, she made her description several hours before he actually got there. That is called precognition. It is also called nonsense by the skeptics. Targ is adamant that the Soviets, unlike the Americans, are interested in establishing the scientific basis of what is going on, if anything. Psychic research is taken seriously at the highest levels of the Soviet, and the next word is blurred out. Not intentionally, it's just the way this reproduction is made. The Soviet scientific, it could be. It's hard to say. And engineering establishment. He says, "We're looking for the physical correlations that relate psychic functioning to the rest of physics." Such endeavours are important for the believers because, despite centuries of searching, the world still lacks the first law of clairvoyance, nor the second law of telepathy, or the third law of psychokinesis. Some observers suggest that Targ is being naive and that he is being used by the Soviets. "The Russians are curious about what Targ knows," says Martin Ebon, a speaker at CSICOP's meeting who is currently writing a book on the Soviet propaganda machine. "Their whole intelligence operation is a gigantic vacuum cleaner," he said. "Russell Targ is caught up in that vacuum cleaner." Others say Targ would never be allowed free rein in the USSR by the Americans if he had so much to offer them. They say that both the US and the Soviets are deliberately creating a smoke screen over psychic warfare so the other side will waste time and money on futile research. That doesn't sound too far from the truth, I would imagine. But Ebon, who is not unsympathetic to the psychic cause, says that remote viewing is part of a long-standing Soviet interest in mind control. They believe that the key to some psychic powers could be extremely low-frequency electromagnetic waves emitted by the brain. The Soviets consider the human brain an electrochemical instrument they can do something with, Ebon says. He speculates that the morose behavior exhibited by President Carter in 1979 after he returned from a meeting in Vienna with Premier Brezhnev may have been caused by Soviet mind control. Amplifying telepathy by such emotions as hate and fear, and by the use of drugs and electronic stimulators, appear to be part of the Soviet arsenal in this field, Ebon told the CSICOP meeting. One Soviet experiment conducted between Moscow and Leningrad involved a biophysicist, Yuri Kaminsky, imagining that he was strangling and punching his partner, Karl Nikolaev, who reportedly felt severe pain and suffocation. It is called, quote, crisis telepathy, end quote. Targ says that he has seen no evidence of remote viewing in the USSR being used for military purposes, but he acknowledges that during his first trip to the Soviet Union, oblique reference was often made to what we were not being shown. There is no love lost between Targ and CSICOP. He refused an invitation to attend the Stanford meeting, although it was on his doorstep. It was like an opportunity for Magellan to attend a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. We have just come back from the Soviet Union, having carried out a landmark experiment in cooperation with the Soviet Academy of Sciences. Why should I want to talk to a cranky group of non-scientists who feel there is no such thing as what I am doing? His reference to cranky non-scientists is a dig at magicians and philosophers in CSICOP. But philosopher Kurt says that the inherent weakness in remote viewing is the subjective matching of the viewer's description with the target site. Who is to say they are the same thing? What makes it a hit? Lee Ross, a professor of psychology from Stanford and a member of CSICOP, comments, remote viewing studies are often described as a lot better and cleaner than they actually are. Information that could offer another explanation is left out. The studies are not so much dishonest but lack candor and completeness. Referring to the research by Targ and Harold Pultoff at SRI, Stanford statistician Percy Diakonis says, "It is impossible to tell from their reporting what went on." Doug is bored by such talk. Remote viewing exists, he declares, and it is time to find out what is physically happening. He claims his robust protocol for remote viewing has been replicated elsewhere, including by the Dean of Engineering at Princeton, Robert Jahn. But Jahn refuses to talk about his work. He is very cautious and reticent, says Professor Kurtz. CSICOP members are arranging to go to Jahn's laboratory and test the experiments. The results, if ever made public, could be significant. And that will do for this Trove. That was a lengthy article written way back in 1985. And I guess one of the takeaways from this, as we discover more and more as the years and the decades roll by, all these things that were about to be discovered or firmly believed in decades ago ultimately went nowhere. But of course, there are still people who believe in such things like remote viewing. But it really is a relic of another time. And in next week's Trove, we'll look at a couple of more references in historical newspapers to the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, CSICOP. And I wonder if we'll find something to do with James Randi. We probably will, because when you go to Trove or other references, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and thank you, Psychic Penny, for the last minute providing that report on the number 888. What great advice! Always from Psychic Penny. And you can follow her adventures if you go to YouTube or just go to Google or any search engine and type in The Adventures of Psychic Penny. You can listen to her incredible trip into the galaxy with the Galactic Federation. Coming up on next week's show, another report fresh from Mind Body Wallet, Mind Body Spirit, with Annie McCubbin and Kate Thomas. In fact, as soon as I've finished recording, I'm going to be getting myself ready to go downtown once more onto the breach, dear friends, to brave the woo at Mind Body Wallet. Thank you to those people who continue to support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon at skepticzone.tv, and thank you to those people who contribute in other ways, and you know who you are, of course. And believe me, it's so valued here at the Skeptic Zone. I was able to kit out our new reporter with some equipment thanks to your generosity. Everybody's generosity, whether you subscribe or donate in another way. And I hope soon we'll have another adventure with Psychic Penny. She just seems not always to be available. I think she likes to hang out with the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet. That should be a song, I think. That's an idea. Until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Record. You can tell it's recording the red light and the timing.
Yeah, and it's actually filled in the
waveform. Yep. Yeah, it makes it more apparent. Well, I'm here with new reporter Kate Thomas. Hello, Kate.
Hi. How are you?
I'm well. I'm pleased to be visiting you. We're just going to sort out your recording for future episodes of Woo Watch, and there is a lot of woo to watch.
There is a huge amount of woo happening in the world of social media at the moment.
I thought you were about to say in the world of woo.
In the world of woo.
And we have Lara Benham, the Secretary of Australian Skeptics. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And we are going to play the dice game. We have a 10-sided die here. Now, you at home, you can play along. Use your psychic magic predicting powers to come up with what the dice is going to be. 1 out of 10. What is your magical predicting power saying, Kate?
7.
3.
5 for me. Here it goes. 4. None of us. Right. That's roll number 1. Kate, what do you predict for roll 2?
7.
1.
2.
Oh.
3. Okay, this shows you how psychic we are.
I'm not very psychic.
No, okay.
8.
I'm going to stick with 7 because it's as likely to be 7 as it is anything else.
5.
Yay!
I'm getting closer.
It's 8.
I'm a little bit psychic.
And one more for the supplementary. I'm going to predict 10 or 0. It's the same thing. Yeah.
7.
Oh, I was going to go with 7.
You can have
I can have 7 too. I'm going to stick with 7.
8. Well, you're a little bit psychic today.
Psychic, just a quarter.